Hello, this is Wmpyr, here to talk about knife fighting, knife combat in general. And the first thing is something that I hear often is that knife fighting, it doesn't exist today. That is a very, very common thing to hear. And, these people, they feel like knife fighting is stupid because the people that are training in knife fighting, they are training for something that it doesn't happen on the street. In the street, nobody says to you, hey, take out your knife. I have a knife. Now let's fight. Because that is a duel type situation, and duels are no longer legal anymore. Duels were done like hundreds of years ago, and in today's society, unless you're stupid or who knows what, and you decide to participate in a duel, it's crazy, right? It's just something that normal people don't engage in stuff like that anymore. So if a knife is involved in today's street altercation, it is an ambush, right? And this is where I understand what they're saying about historically people dueled, but not anymore. I get that. I understand that. However, if you think deeper, the ambush situation that you're talking about, you need to use awareness, because if you don't, an ambush is a surprise attack. And if you're not aware of it, surprise is a very strong element in battle, in combat. And if someone really surprises you 100%, you're going to be dead. That's it. It's over. So if someone is successful with their knife assault on you and they ambush you, there's really nothing you can do. You're done, in my opinion. So you need awareness to thwart that, and you go, oh, wait a minute, this guy's approaching me kind of fast, and then you notice something shining in his hand, and it's like, hey, you stay away from me, right? And you keep the distance, and at that point, if he continues on, now you are in a duel, okay? Let's say you could run at that point, but you have a family member, so you decide not to. And you happen to also have a knife, so you take out your knife. This guy already has his knife out. You are in a duel situation. Why? Because you thwarted the ambush. If you didn't thwart the ambush, oh boy, that could have been over. You could have been in the hospital at that point. But because you quickly identified before they could get close, and now you have the distance, but for some reason you had to stay, now you are in a knife fight. Okay. So knife fighting does exist in today's context. And so that's something I want to... I've been saying this to you guys for many years now, just because that way of thinking was so popular at a time. And I've heard many people, many instructors say that knife fighting is stupid. It doesn't exist. But in Filipino martial arts, we are taught knife fighting. And I kept saying to myself, look, these people are saying this as like a parrot. They're just parroting some cool phrase that became a fad. Do they really know what they're talking about? Because over here, what I'm doing, this is blood, sweat, and tears. This comes from FMA, Filipino Martial Arts. And, when I really thought about it, I was like, yes, knife fighting is valid. You need it to survive a knife fight. A knife assault, you want to change it into a knife fight in order to survive and then escape. So that was kind of the thing that was very important to me. Now the next idea is it possible to defend against a knife, right? Some people say it's not possible. And, in certain situations, yeah, I would agree. It's not possible. In certain situations, it's just way, way, way too difficult. Does that mean you should give up? No. Fight to the end, and then some. Never give up, right? Now, some people believe that it's just impossible if someone has a knife, and even if you have a knife, to be able to do the sweet science, is what I call in the sweet science of boxing, which is you hit them and they don't hit you. So I saw at least one video, which I think is kind of rare, but the instructor was saying that um, against the sword, sword versus sword, you could do the sweet science. Okay, you could attack them and not get hit if you have the skill. And same with empty hand, that is possible as well. But they're saying with the knife, it's not possible. And that to me doesn't make sense. Okay, I believe 100% it does make sense. And the killer method, right? Who wants to be called Shinobi from now on? So I'll call him Shinobi. He recommended some knife fighting guys to me, and one of them was the Italian knife fighting, knife fencing guy. And this guy's amazing. And if you watch that guy, you could clearly see that it is possible. That's proof right there that it's possible to knife fight, dominate the opponent with skill, and you could keep yourself safe. He shows it. And there's another guy that I really like, the Ukrainian knife fighting guy. This guy is also amazing, and you can clearly see that he has skills like that too. So, of course, it depends on who you're up against, but it is definitely possible to have skill and to be able to hit them and you not get hit. This is 100% possible. So knife defense is possible, and knife defense while knife fighting is also possible. So let me just say that. Of course, this is my opinion, but I feel like the evidence is all over YouTube. Now, the third thing that I want to go into is knife fighters do not exist. And I understand where this person is coming from when they say something like this, because what they're saying is there are no such thing as real knife fighters. Show me a real knife fighter. And then you go, what makes this person a knife fighter? How many knife fights has this person actually been in? And that is the same problem we see with street fighters, right? Because with street fighting, what are you counting fights where it was like the guy is so drunk he could barely stand and he's like, oh, and comes up to you and you knocked him out with one hit and then you go, there. Now I have another victory. And that's a street fight. Really? You count that? You know? Or did you just take advantage of somebody that was just, he was an idiot and he was totally drunk, but was not capable of fighting, was not capable of putting up a good fight, okay? And you just took advantage of that. Is that really is that really street fighting, you know? So the same problem occurs with knife fighting, right? So when a person says, you know, I've been in knife fights, it's like, what's the quality? Be honest here. And how many knife fights are we talking about? 5? 5 is a lot. If someone says, I've been in 5 knife fights, that's a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, to be a real knife fighter, a knife fighting expert, 5 is nothing. If you're talking about like how much sparring a martial artist does or a professional fighter does, and then how many matches they have, 5 it's nothing, you know? So if you look at it from that point of view, it's just, okay, so then I understand why they're saying knife fighters don't exist. But, like, for example, to me, the Italian knife fencing guy and also the Ukrainian knife fighting guy, both of those guys are knife fighters to me. Even though when they spar, let's say they're not using a real knife, okay? And they've never, let's say, stabbed and cut a person. Maybe they have, but let's say they haven't, right? And all they've done is sparring with training knives. To me, you're still training in real knife fighting, and you are a knife fighter, okay? Now, yes, I see the gap. I see the gap because that is different from using an actual knife and going up against somebody that also has an actual knife on the street. It is different for sure, okay? But do I think that either one of those guys can actually do, let's say, half of what they do in those sparring footages, those videos that they uploaded, half of that in a real life street situation, knife to knife. And I believe yes, I believe so. Okay, but that's just my belief, right? That doesn't mean that it's fact. And just because I think those two can do it, can everybody do it? No. It depends on the person, of course, but that's not a cop-out excuse. Do I feel that I could do my stuff? Can I actually, if I had a knife and I was up against someone in the street and it was valid reasons, right? Because my life is in danger and I had to and I couldn't escape. All right. Could I cut this person? Could I stab this person? In my opinion, yes. And I don't have to be like necessarily, how do you call it? If I know the situation's right, can I do it? Yeah, I believe so. I am confident. And that is no guarantee, because in real life, you never know what can happen. You never know. Fight, flight, or freeze. People always talk about it's fight or flight. To me, it's fight, flight, or freeze. It's the 3 F's, not 2 F's. That could happen to anyone, even the best of us, and that just depends on the situation. I've been in situations where a shotgun was pulled to my head. So the guy had a shotgun right here. I didn't freak out, panic. I was fine. Okay, I wasn't fine, but I was fine. You know what I mean? I was still thinking clearly. I was like, okay, this is really, really bad. I need to do something here. I've been in situations like that where, I can't see his hands. Does he have a firearm? And he's asking me for money. And I was able to think clearly. But then there's other situations I was in. For example, there was one where I thought I was like in a home invasion situation. I heard the footsteps coming. So all I had was a knife. And I've already told the story to you guys, but even breathing was difficult at that point. I was waiting for them with a knife, and that knife felt like it weighed 50 pounds, So in that situation, it was like, okay, don't go into freeze. I was battling that. And, I was like, okay, you're going to have to, when they show up, you're going to have to be able to perform here. So don't freeze up. So it just depends. But am I confident? Yes, because of my training. I'm not confident because I'm just confident. To me, that's arrogance. If you can't back up your confidence, you're arrogant. Okay, confidence comes from training. And so from my training, which is simulation, and I get it. That's what this person is exactly. The person's like, exactly, you are a simulation. That is your background, is you are a simulator. You're not the real thing. And he's saying a knife fighter to me is the real thing. And that's where I disagree with him, because if you look at a boxer or a kickboxer, those are fighters, right? Professional fighters. To me, those guys, that's a simulation, because that's not the street. There are rules and all that, but I would never want to mess with a professional Muay Thai fighter in the ring or in the street. Okay, especially not the street, because then he could do whatever he wants. But, okay, so let me give you another example. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, right? So let's say this guy trains BJJ, and he's been doing it for, let's say 2 years of solid BJJ, regular, on a regular basis. Okay, so then this guy, he's been doing the sparring, right? Is he a BJJ fighter? Depends, Now, let's say a judo team visits the BJJ school, right? And they're not going to join. They're there to test themselves against the BJJ school. So this one person that has been doing BJJ for 2 years, right? He sees that and he's like, okay, well, let's have fun. And he spars the judo guys like it's a, just like anybody else. He's probably going to lose, because the mindset's not the same. The judo guys visiting are there to test themselves. They're here because it's a challenge. It's a challenge match. This guy's just having fun, right? Now, there might be some other guy in the school that has also been training 2 years at the BJJ school, and he recognizes, oh, they're from a judo school, and he's like, put me up against those guys. I'm going to represent our school, and I'm going to go up against these guys. It's my school versus your school. That guy's a fighter. Even though they've both been doing the 2 years, one guy's doing it, for fun. He enjoys BJJ. He really likes it. He's really, really into it. That's a mega hobby for him. Okay, I could even say he's obsessed with it, right? But it's still his mindset. He's not a fighter. But then this other guy over here where he's like, oh, you guys think you're better than us? All right, let's go. You and me, let's go right now, like this. Even though this guy, it's not on the street, even though it's not in the octagon, a cage fight, to me, this guy has the mentality. He is a fighter, okay? So that would be the same with the knife fighting. So anyway, some things to think about. That's just my point of view, and that's how I define knife fighter, okay? So it doesn't mean you have to be with a real blade in the street and have killed people to be a knife fighter. If you train in knife fighting and you have the mentality of a fighter, to me, and you do the sparring, even if it's with training knives, you're a knife fighter. So that's it. That's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.